we concluded that we have 32 weeks roughly, and they have 37 weeks. And if you round up with all other numbers, you're going to get 640 hours per year in the best case. And for secular school, they have over 16,000 hours. Then we had a discussion about facing the reality. These are the facts which I was talking. Just think this way, that K to 9 for Islamic studies is not mandatory, but for secular education, it's mandatory. And the hours which we talk and discuss between these two. And also the second very important point is parents and students heavily involved in secular schools. But in Islamic schools, they are not heavily involved. Often we saw that parents force the students, but students, they don't want to go. And also, there is no alignment between all the stakeholders in full-time schools, in Islamic schools and full-time schools. There is a good alignment. Facilities, all of us, we know that is not good fees for full-time, the Islamic schools, because most of our centers, we are suffering, and so on and so forth. So some of the points which I mentioned there, you can see that it's not compatible to compare between Sunday schools, which is Islamic schools, and the secular school. Yes, the ultimate goal is to have our own full-time schools. If we can have a full-time schools, we may end up a good result. Otherwise, if not, always we are talking about a huge challenge between us and the Islamic schools and also the secular schools. The amount of information or students they're going to receive in full-time school, secular school, and with all the temptations and all the circumstances happening, is not compatible. All of this, what I mentioned, is a portion of what it's in the equation. True equation here is, if you can go to the next slide, the true equation here is our reality has few other things. The first thing our reality has is your ikhlas and dedication and devotion. Divine help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you are discovering the fitra, innate nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something heavier than one can imagine and think of, right? I would like to give you this beautiful story so you can assist that although we're not compatible in academical equation, facilities-wise, number of hours, dedication, devotion, everything. But what you have in terms of ikhlas, dedication, devotion, divine help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and nurturing and working for the fitrah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these are the things is heavier than anything else. It's not in our equation. That's why we often feel that, oh, we cannot. But alhamdulillah, we can. The story goes in the history, you can see, not like although one or two ahadith and riwayat are historical facts you can mention here, but this is more than what you can imagine and think of. The time of Holy Prophet, noble Prophet, peace be upon him and his family. a man who was heavily influenced by the Jahiliyyah. Jahiliyyah was an era which is utter darkness. And their, tribe system and contaminated environment and everything. A man who was living in that area for decades. We're not talking about 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, for decades. He lived in that corrupted, contaminated, ill environment. All what he learned from that environment is resisting against the haqq and truth and fitra. Once upon a time, he heard the news that noble Prophet of Islam, he is in Medina and he is preaching people. He thought himself for a while and he said, you know what? Let's try to go and see him. Maybe I can get something. Or I can defend him. He went to Medina, knocked the door of Holy Prophet, Masjid Nabi. He was greeted by Holy Prophet, peace be upon him and his family. And he said, he talked to Holy Prophet for a few minutes. After talking to Noble Prophet of Islam, he said, Allimni, teach me something. Holy Prophet, he said to one of his companions, go and teach him Surah Zilzal. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا زلزلت الأرض وزلزالها وأخرجت الأرض أثقالها وقال الإنسان ما لها يومئذ تحدث أخبارها بأن ربهم يومئذ تحدث أخبارها. And this surah goes, last two verses, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. Whosoever does atom size of good or bad, he or she will be accountable in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they will see their reaction, the action, their a'mal or their actions on the judgment day. Once he learned, he was affected. All his decades of knowledge and ignorance, fighting against the truth, through truth, everything is one side, and this few minutes spending with Holy Prophet, not with Holy Prophet, as one of the companion, and learning this small surah changed his direction, shape his future. And when he was affected, while he was going, Noble Prophet of Islam, he said, Ja'a jahilan wa raja'a faqiha. He came ignorant, jahil, and he left faqih, a great learned scholar. Subhanallah. And for the rest of his life, he was one of the great supporter and promoter of the haqq and truth, and he was with Holy Prophet, right? So this equation, do people they don't see. That's why I want to bring the hope to you guys that yes, in reality, we may not able to compete, but with the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can change the equation. So now, brothers and sisters, I mentioned about the curriculum. Alhamdulillah, we had a good survey, and based on this survey, we concluded that you guys, you're using a different curriculums. And I mentioned that whether you're using the Tarbiyah one or Madrasa.not, or you're using from Kisa Kids or the Sabah one, or you're using Sheikh Mansur Liqai or Sheikh Shumali one, or any homemade or your own, like the scholars who are made, all of that, what are you using? They have the common subjects, which is we talk and discuss about aqaids, fiqh, ahkam, and also we talk and discuss the third one is history and akhlaqiyat, and also a few other things. Now I want to give you a little bit history about the Steps to Perfection, our own curriculum. And also Sister Fatima, inshallah, she'll take on, from this point onwards after I explain to you guys. So she can talk and discuss about specific points about our curriculum, and also Sister Masuma and also Sister Zahra Sabur, we're going to help about classroom management, inshallah. Basically, right now, our curriculum is ready from pre-K all the way till 7th grade. We have all of those 4-5 subjects which I mentioned, we cover that. And also for 8th onwards, we are working. 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, we're working. K to 7th grade. What was our strategy and what was our journey? Alhamdulillah, we started our journey in 2002. When I joined here in Sabah, one of our major challenges, Sunday school. We revised the curriculum. We used to use, like most of your schools, they had the different experience. We used to use different types of books and here, there. And every alim, they used to come, they used to give something, and also they used to get some from mothers.net here and there. What we did is, in 2003, we decided with a group of people, I would like to mention some of them. Agha Askari, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless his soul, he, Sister Uruj Kazemi, and her team, 5-6 of us, Sister Samina, and so on and so forth. We sat together. We said, you know what? We need to do something. The first thing what we did is, based on the reality, we said we have 32 to 34 Sundays per year. That's where we can have teachings. And we said that only 2 hours or 2 classes per week we can, because 3 classes, 1 is for Quran and 2 for Islamic studies. We said, okay, these are the few subjects, whether fiqh, aqaid, akhlaq, or the history we want to cover, and also some contemporary issues and so on and so forth. We have to cover these subjects. And this is the time we have. And based on that, from K to 12, what we did is each grade, students, they should learn about aqaid this much, about akhlaq this much, about history this much. And also we divided history of imams and so on and so forth, and prophets and humanity and so on and so forth. We said that they need to learn based on our reality on ground and circumstances. These are the things they should learn. Then we had a lots of discussion. It took us 3 years. In 2006, alhamdulillah, the first version of Sabah Center Sunday School curriculum was ready. And then K to 6th. Then what we did is, in 2008, we revised again. 2011, Sister Bhavani, she reached out to us and she said, you know what, we need to add a teacher's guide too. And then we had a lengthy discussion and we added teacher's guide. It took us 2 years. 2013, we added teacher's guide. And then Sister Sadiqa Methani, she joined our team. And she said, we have lots of different challenges, we need to revise that. Then we started revising. Sister Fatima Hussain, she's one of the presenter today. She also joined that. And then we revised one more time. And 2016, it was ready. And then we revised 2018, the latest one. And now we are in the process of completion of this new revision. So inshallah, our goal is our books for K to 6th grade will be printed in hard copies, hardcover. Inshallah, will be ready in the United States, in Australia, in UK, and Canada. Those who wants to get that. But for 7th grade onwards, we are just in the state of piloting some of the grades, like 7th grade. For 8th and onwards, we're going to, inshallah, co-op with our team in Australia, Brother Ali and his team. And we, inshallah, want to work and see what are the best options we can have. And also our team are working behind the scene in daily basis. We have meetings and so on and so forth to come up with a good system. So this is a little bit of background of what happened. Although with that, we have a good system for Quran also, work about Quran, because today I want to focus about Islamic studies. That's why I want to pause here. I would like to invite Sister Fatima Hussain and Sister Zahra Sabur and Sister Masuma Hadri. Please come and take from this point onwards with the hope that inshallah all of us we can benefit from today's session. With recitation of salawat, I would like to invite Sister Fatima Hussain. Please recite salawats.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجهم.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Fatima. It's an honor to be here to just share a little bit about the Steps to Perfection curriculum. Like Maulana Abdi mentioned, I've been involved in the past couple of revisions, so I'm a little bit familiar with the curriculum, and inshallah today I'd like to share a general overview, and then Sister Zahra and Sister Masuma will be presenting some techniques that you can use to engage students with the curriculum, like some of the techniques that you can use online, since we are, going to be online for at least half of the year this year. So I want to start with the general overview of the curriculum. Like Maulana Abdi mentioned, the Steps to Perfection books are each divided into 4 or 5 categories. So it's Aqaid, Fiqh, History, Akhlaq, and Special Occasions. So the Aqaid section, if you notice it starts from kindergarten until 1st grade, we introduce the Usul al-Din. And each year, the explanation of the Usul al-Din gets a little bit deeper. So in the beginning, in kindergarten, maybe you're just explaining who Allah is and that He's the creator. But later on in 4th grade, you start going into the proofs of Allah's existence, like the Fitrah proof. And then in 6th grade, the students start learning about the Sifat al-Thubutiyya and Salbiyya. So it gets a little bit more in depth as they go. And then the fiqh section, it covers the different usul al-din. And again, it gets deeper as each level goes on. And then there's also other fiqh topics covered, like taqlid or najasa, mutahhirat, hijab, and so on and so forth. The history section is like, if you look at it, it's a timeline. So it starts from kindergarten, 3rd grade. Students learn about the imams, and the 14 Ma'sumin. And then in 4th grade, they learn the in-depth history of the prophets. So all most of the prophets that we know about, like Prophet Musa, Prophet Ibrahim, they learn the history of their lives. And then 5th grade and 6th grade, students learn about the history of the noble prophet. So in 5th grade, it covers the first half of his life from birth to hijrah. And then 6th grade covers from hijrah to his rahla. And then again, akhlaq in each grade, the topics chosen are relevant to the age group. So in younger grades, they might include topics such as sharing. But in older grades, you get into more deeper topics like jealousy and greed. And then in the younger, all of the books cover Karbala and Hajj. In the younger grades, it's called special occasions because they're just kind of learning about the event. Whereas maybe in the older grades, you're learning a little bit deeper about the events. All of the PDFs are available at kisakids.org. And we're just wrapping up on the final revision that's going to be launched very soon, inshallah. And that right now we have teachers' guides and students' guides, but with this new revision, we're also going to have workbooks, which will just be the worksheets and the different activities that students can do. And actually, with Salam Online, madrasas and Sunday schools now have the option of collaborating with Salam Online. And what your school would get then is that you would get a learning management system that would be customized for your organization, as well as access to all of the PDFs for the curriculums and recorded classes. We actually have teachers who are recording lessons for each of the different lessons in the books. And then we also are producing a lot of supplemental content. Like there's PowerPoints, games, quizzes, different activities for each of the lessons in each of the grades. So there's a lot of really good resources that a lot of madrasas could benefit from and teachers could benefit from as well. So this is an example of the learning management system. And if this is something that your madrasa is interested in collaborating with, you can email admin@salamonline.education, so you can get more information and set up a one-on-one meeting where you can kind of figure out if this is right for your school. So as I was mentioning, we're just wrapping up on the final revision for this year. And the revision, there's not too many major changes, but there is one really big change that you will see in the new Steps to Perfection curriculum if you've been using it before. And that is the transliteration guidelines. So Al-Kisa Foundation as an organization has adopted a new policy of how we transliterate Arabic words. And so we have started to use diacritic, what we call diacritic characters. And those have like those weird like lines and dots everywhere. And the reason we've chosen to adopt this method is because of the fact that when you're transliterating in English, it's very limiting. And what's happening is that we're noticing that students were having a difficult time pronouncing certain words. For example, it works for some letters. So the letter fa, you can write an F and it translates pretty well. But for example, what do you do between sin and sod? So if students see a word that has a sod but it's written with an S, they may not know how to pronounce it properly. So the goal with the new transliteration guidelines is that inshallah we can help students achieve a better pronunciation of Arabic and a better recognition of those words. Now there is a bit of a learning curve when it comes to transliteration, not just for children, but for adults as well, which is why each of the books has a transliteration guide. And the transliteration guide, it shows you, it's very basic. It shows you the, which letters translate to which Arabic letters. And then also each book has a lesson. The transliteration lesson, it teaches you how to teach students the different how to read. So in grades K through 2, students are mainly learning how to read. Whereas starting from grades 3 or 4, students begin to read to learn, right? So that's why you'll find that the transliteration lesson in grades 3 and up comes with a practice worksheet to help students decipher the different words. And this can actually be taught in a really fun way. So one example is wordwall.net. Oops, sorry. Yeah, so wordwall.net has a lot of really fun games, and I've just posted a screenshot below that kind of shows one, which is a word jumble. So students can, you can put this on the screen and students can tell you which the correct order of the words, and then that will show them that, okay, this is the word adala. So then they become familiar with the different diacritics and how to read those words. Another fun game to play is Hangman, and that can just be done on the whiteboard. So those are a couple of ways that you could teach the diacritic lesson and the transliteration lesson. Now we recommend starting each lesson with hook activities to engage students. This is especially important online. So one way you could do this is think, pair, share, which is where you just mention the topic that's going to be discussed today and allow students to brainstorm what they already know. So in the beginning, for those of you who were able to join early, we had posted a question, which was, I'm going to share my screen. We had posted this: what is an effective teaching method you have used or seen another madrasa teacher use to engage students? And a lot of you shared some really good answers. So it's like dioramas, Kahoot, Quizlet, discussions, and these are all really good methods. So when you post a question like this as students are coming in, it kind of eliminates that dead time, and it helps them think about the topic before you even begin the lesson and brainstorm on what they already know to get the juices flowing. And using technology to do that makes it fun for them as well. So that's mentimeter.com that was used, and that generates like a word cloud, and it's a really fun visual way to see what students know. And then if you want to do something even more simple, is you could just put a word on your screen, khums, and either call on a student to share, and then they get to call on the next person. You could figure out a fun way to do that so that everyone gets a chance to share what they know. As we mentioned, the K through 6 curriculum also comes with teacher's guides. And so I want to first talk about the K through 3 teachers guides, because those are a little bit different than the 4 through 6. Since in the early elementary, there's a lot of focus on activities and art and crafts to really teach. So the taskbar features a lot of supplemental activities that you can do. So for example, on the right, this is, I believe, from 2nd grade. There's a lesson on Usul Ad-Din, and one of the activities is a show and sort. Not just, this is where you could show pictures of trees and show students the differences between like roots and branches to emphasize how the roots of Islam relate to a tree, and how that metaphor, how it explains why the Usul Ad-Din are so important. It also provides different resources, so there might be links to different songs or additional books related to the lesson. The K through 3 also features a script, like you'll see it say, it asks prompts, guiding questions, comprehension questions. Teachers know which points to emphasize. They know that this is a key point, or a lot of times points that might be confusing for students. It clarifies that. And Sister Zahra will be sharing more instructional methods that inshallah you can use for for pre-K through 3. And then for 4th grade to 6th grade, again, the taskbar, it'll be, the activities are a little bit more on par for a higher grade. So a lot of the 4th or 6th grade lessons feature something called LINK. And LINK is just an acronym for list, inquire, notes, knowledge. If you're familiar with KWL, know, want to know, and learn, this is kind of a very similar activity to that, where again, you're asking students to think about a subject and brainstorm what they already know. And again, since we're doing this online, something like Slido or Mentimeter are good ways to have students share these ideas, or you could just have them put them in the chat box, or even share, share like verbally. And then followed by that, the next step after you've kind of listed what you know is inquire, where you ask students what they would like to know. So this especially, when it comes to fiqh topics, you'll find that students have a lot of questions. So this is a good way for them to think about the topic, what they already know, and things they would like to learn about that topic. And then it's good to note those questions maybe in a Google Doc or something to make sure that you can come back to address them. And then students can take notes as they read the chapter, and Sister Massimo will explain some ways that students can take notes to kind of ensure that they're learning in the best possible way. And then finally, the K stands for knowledge. So after completing the lesson, students can go back and they can demonstrate what they've learned. Now this can be done various ways. This can be done through a quiz. It can be done through a culminating activity where they create, maybe a brochure or a pamphlet to show others what they know. It can be done by them teaching a younger sibling what they've learned about the subject. So you can get really creative with assessing how much students have learned. And then also you want to go back to those questions that they asked and see if they're able to answer those questions, or if they're not, then maybe at that point you could answer those questions that they had initially. Again, Sister Malcolm will share more methods for engaging older students. So I'll pass it on to Sister Zahra now.
All right, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. You can press the space bar and reply.
Walaikum assalam.
All right.
Walaikum assalam.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam, sister.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
All right, so they didn't tell you this, but I am very I'm like technologically deficient. So I'm right now trying to find my part of this, and I can't seem to find it. Hold on. There you go. That's mine. Okay, so obviously that doesn't make being online very easy, but I'm going to do my best. And also, you're just not my audience. My audience has always been very young kids, so I'm going to do my best, inshallah. So Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. As they mentioned, my name is Sister Zahra Sabor. I have been teaching young kids in public schools, but mostly Islamic schools for 10 plus years now. And when my children were getting to the age where or actually when they were 1 year old, I decided I would not be able to teach any longer. And so I decided to continue in a way that I could manage my children as well. So I started something which is similar to like a library story time. It's a mommy and me class. And in this, the moms come, the kids come. It's a really fun little session. We do stories and songs. And of course, we decided to make this Islamic themed because there wasn't anything like it. And ever since COVID happened, all of a sudden, I'm trying to move this online. And now we have, how do we get 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds engaging on over a screen, which is obviously very difficult if you're not like YouTube or anything. So I am gonna share some tips that I think I've started to develop. And as I give you tips and tricks, what I'd like to see is if you would like to use the chat feature and jot down some things you notice that I actually like. You don't want to preach what you don't do. So as I teach you these things, I hope that I will also be using these techniques with you so you can see them in real lifetime. So you can go ahead and put that in the chat. All right, let's see. Okay, so you are the face that the kids are seeing. You're their teacher, you're their everything, especially in the younger years. And obviously we don't have that connection that we would have if you were right in front of them. So it's really important that you're building this connection over this little screen. And so one of the things I say is smile, smile, and smile some more. Now, sometimes when you're over a screen, it's just like, why am I smiling so much? This is weird. But they really do pick up on it. In fact, a lot of moms have told me one of the things that makes you different, teachers, Zahra, is that you're always smiling. And sometimes you don't feel like smiling, but you still smile because these kids need to see that you're excited. And a lot of the times I am excited. The other thing that you might notice is, I try to make my voice pitch melodious, and kids really are attracted to that. So sometimes when you're just saying salam, you could say salam alaikum, you could say salam alaikum, and just keep it exciting. And there'll be times where I'll be like, mystery box time, which I will mention later. But it may seem silly, but to them, it's like, what is she gonna, what's going on? So they get really attracted to what you're saying. Another thing I mentioned is clothing. I think that the brighter clothing for them, especially if you're a woman and you're wearing the hijab, you just try to keep it light for the kids. And that is another way of connecting with them. And if you noticed, my background is plain. Now, a lot of people have this misconception that with younger kids, you need to have a very colorful background. Lots of bright colors will keep them excited, will attract them, like I've been saying. But actually, research has found that the more plain your background is, the more focused they are on you. And while this is true for even a classroom, this is even more so true online, just because maybe for older kids, they would be fine with it. But I'll give you a quick example is when I'm listening to a lecture and they have like a lot of books, like mashallah, Mulana Abadi has a lot of books behind him. I'm the type of learner that I will be focusing on the background more than I'll be focusing on the words. So just a tip for younger kids and grown-ups like me who have attention deficit problems. One thing you want to do, even if your kids are like, preschool age, is just talk to them about the rules. Now, this would be as simple as, when I'm talking, keep yourself on mute, okay? Or use the space button. That way you can just unmute when you want to answer and then let go. Let's practice. Press the space button. Now you can talk to me and I can hear you, and then let go. Because oftentimes when they're using the unmute button, they forget to mute themselves. Now I have moms there that really monitor, but oftentimes if you're teaching a madrasa class, you probably won't have the kids there. And any other features you're using, for example, I'll be sharing my screen with you. That gets tricky with kids. Now, sharing the screen is an amazing feature to use because there's so much out there. However, when you can't see the kids, you don't know who's muting. And I feel like when I'm doing my classes, I feel like if I didn't teach them, I would constantly be trying to unmute kids when I don't know who it is that is talking. So it's really important, especially when you're sharing your screen, that they know that they can only be muted, or if you want them to answer, they can only use their space bar. You want to repeat a lot. For example, my whole theme that I'm going to be trying to teach you guys is like I'm in a class and I'm teaching that Allah is Al-Khaliq, He's our creator. Now, in this theme that comes with the Salam Online, they're going to be focusing on the word Subhanallah. Allah made things in a perfect way. So as much as I can say, subhanallah, Allah made things in such a perfect way. So even if I'm talking to you guys and I say, subhanallah, you guys are all, you guys look so wonderful and great, and subhanallah, Allah made you guys in such a perfect way. And I'll say that throughout the class, inshallah, if I don't forget. You want to be silly and exaggerate. You'll see I do a lot of that. I don't want to do that in front of you guys because, again, I'm not used to adults as my audience, but I'll give a quick example. One of the things I did in a class today is we're talking about the nose, the anf, and I talked about all these things that smell really great. And then I took a diaper, my daughter's diaper, that's obviously not used, but I smell it and I pretend to faint and I make this big shriek and the kids just ate it up. They loved it. Okay. All right, so now that I've given teacher tips, I'd like to talk about what the lesson would look like. You have a start, you have a middle, and you have an end. So we'll talk about the start. When we get to the middle of it, I'm going to talk about two things: the meat of what you're trying to teach them, and then transitions, and finally, how you want to end your class. So I always like to start with a salam song. I often try to say each child's name. Now, if you have 50 kids, that's going to be quite difficult. So you might want to come up with a salam song that just talks about Salamun alaykum wa alaykum wa salam, or something like that. Or if you have fewer kids, 20 kids, it's fine to say Assalamu alaikum Ahmad, Assalamu alaikum Muhammad, Assalamu alaikum so-and-so. We're so glad that you are here. And you can look online for a lot of songs, which is what I do, and then I just change them. So we talked about personal greetings. Now, one thing I don't do is I try not to do meet and greet in the beginning with young kids. Now, that is not normal for a teacher to do, because when you oftentimes start a class, it's good to get to know your kids straight up from the beginning. However, I found that because you're online, if you start with a meet and greet, it gets long with young kids. They want to show you everything and anything, and they want to just say whatever comes to their head, which is so beautiful and cute, but it's very distracting, and it's hard to pull away from that and get to your lesson. So if you've ever watched Noor Kids, if you ever attended my class, you will know that I go, Salamun alaikum, and I just start the class. And doesn't mean I'm gonna ignore those kids. You'll see that will come later. We always begin our classes with Quran time. You could do dua time. However you do it, make it exciting. You know, a lot of kids don't find that naturally exciting, so I like to do movements. Now, you'll see this throughout my classes if they're opening and shutting their hands through a song that I created, or if they're just standing up, standing down, or something to get them excited. It's important to do that. Agenda is something that I hope I did to you guys today. I told you what we're doing. A lot of times that makes kids excited if you have something that you think they're going to be excited about. For example, I didn't tell you guys, but I'm going to be doing a guessing game, inshallah. So with that, you know, we'll be doing that. And so hopefully you have the kids, you know, listening and engaging because they can't wait to get to the guessing game. Okay. So now you're in your meat of your lesson and you have to present it to these young kids. How do you do that in an exciting way? And I think this is why we're all here, right? So one of the things I like to do is the mystery box. This is a, you know, $3 box I got from Target. I just decorated it, and I always have what my lesson is about in here, and I like to give it in the way of clues. So for example, if I have in my box, I have a watermelon. I wonder who created the watermelon. Now, I'm not actually unmuting the kids at this point because, again, the kids can often take a long time. So I like to talk out loud, and I love to pretend you're actually answering. Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that watermelon. Who created that flower? And you can't see this, but usually my board is visible, the whole board. And the flower, and I go through this. And then I say, I have a, you know, obviously bring it up to the screen. I have a mom and a baby. I wonder who created the mom, and I wonder who created the baby. And I have these kids put on their detective hats, and then they have to think, are we talking about things that are being created? Or if they can't figure that out, I'll show you what I have. I have lots of puppets. Now, I'm not a cat person, but I'm a puppet person. One of those people that has way too many puppets. I have my Mr. Bakra, which I love when I'm trying to enunciate, especially when I'm teaching Quran. He can say ba really well, so I like using him. For my Hajj class, I have a little sheep. These are all from Amazon. This one was from Etsy. You can find, I mean, I teach the lesson of animals in the Quran, and I use this as my hoot. Every kind of puppet I have, except for people, which would be great, but I don't have that because I couldn't find a Muslim boy and a Muslim girl. And I like when they can open their mouths, because oftentimes, because your kids are on mute, this becomes your conversation, because sometimes it's weird to keep talking out loud. So I'll say, how are you doing, Mr. Bakra? Oh, I'm doing good, alhamdulillah. Now, I'm not a very good ventriloquist, so what I do as a trick is I bring the puppet close to the screen, and while the puppet's talking, I can talk and they don't even know. So it makes it fun. Now, you don't have a whiteboard, so I really do recommend that when you're online, you have some sort of easel. This is an easel I found on a garage sale. I put some felt paper that is probably $5 on it, and that way I can create these pieces that I put on there, which I'll talk about in a second. The other side is a whiteboard, so you'll need that with young kids, because that's going to be how you teach them, because it's harder for us to share screens and go and draw on the screen, so we do that using a whiteboard. Now, these felt pieces, a lot of people ask me, I don't have time to make felt flowers or felt animals, and I don't either. I'm a busy mom who has 3 young kids. So what I like to do is I get very familiar with Google Images, and I print everything out on a color printer. I laminate it. I have a laminating machine, and then I just put a Velcro on the back. And when I do that, then I can go ahead and stick all of these pieces up here, and I didn't spend any time. Let's see, I say visual pages. Why do I say that? Oh, I'm going to share my screen with you guys. So let me see here. How do I share my screen? Oh, I am sharing my screen. Oh my God, I told you guys. Okay, so here we are in a lesson about Allah al-Khaliq. Now, like I said, for younger kids, which I normally deal with, everything's on the felt board. Now, you may have kindergartners, first graders, and so I'll show you a lesson that we can do with them. And this can also go up to second and third, but there's a slight improvisation that I'll show you. Now, if you look at my screen, I talk about, this is the chart, this is the side that Allah created, and this is what man created. So now we have some images. Now, I told you guys I'm not very technological savvy, and so this actually took me maybe a matter of 10 minutes, and I'm just using Word document. I'm sure there are cooler things out there, but this is what I know.
Excuse me, Sister Zahra, I'm sorry, yes. We couldn't see that screen, what you're sharing right now. We see the transition screen.
Okay, you can't see the Microsoft Word?
Oh, no, sister.
Okay, one second. Let me see if I can bring it up. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So here we have my Word document, and I show like an image of a house, and I'll say to everyone, now who created this house? Do you think Allah actually came and built this house, or did people make this house? And at this point, remember, I taught you to use the space bar, so you can go ahead and a few of you can tell me, did this house, was it created by Allah, or did man create it? Did a person create it? No. Yeah, man created it, yeah. If the kids are not answering, like your answers are coming in late, I will just go ahead and answer it, say, yeah, man did create that, you're right. And I'm gonna pretend you answered, because likely you have, but you weren't able to get that answer. So here we have the system, and with the kids' answers, which when you have a few kids, it actually works really well. They love answering. We go ahead and we sort these, and they tell me where to put it, and they're like, oh, put this in Allah made that, and this chair, oh, man made that, man did that, and this stuffed animal, man did that, and we sort this out. Now, when you have maybe a first, second, third grader, you can take this lesson and you can go slightly deeper. Now here what I did is I said, okay, let's look at that chair over there. Do you see the chair? What we're gonna do is we're gonna look into that, because you guys said man made that chair, and you're right. So let's see here, we have a chair. Now this chair, did it just get made just like that? And they'll be like, no, a carpenter built this chair. So we can talk about that. Right, there's a carpenter or a builder who made this chair. And who made that carpenter, by the way? oh, right, Allah made that carpenter. And what else do you think he used to make the chair? He used a tree which he cut down and he made that out of wood. And so now you're talking about a chair that a lot of times people are like, well, did Allah make that house? Did Allah make that chair? No, but without Allah, there would be no chair because there would be no wood to use and there'd be no person. And you can do that, you know, say we want to do that with the pool as well. Allah, you know, made the builder who made the pool, and Allah made the water that goes into the pool. And now, you know, if you have little older kids and you might say, okay, I can really go into this and I can talk about this shovel that he's using and how did he, you know, where did this metal come from? Or where did this handle come from? Or the cement that was placed here. And so you can actually have more things coming out from there. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to here. Are you guys back on the screen where it shows my presentation?
Not yet.
No.
sister.
Okay, are you there now?
No. Just
No.
do new share.
Okay. Yeah, I told you guys. It works.
Excuse me, sister, could you show us the stuffed animals as puppets? Because I think you were showing, you were trying to show, but we couldn't see. Is it possible?
Can you see it now?
Yeah, the presentation screen is here, but I was thinking if it's possible, could you show some puppets?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here. Yeah,
Okay,
here you go.
so this is what I was saying. I call him Mr. Bakara. He's my cow. I have my sheep, which I used for the Hajj class I did. I have my whale, which I use for animals in the Quran. I talk a lot about the food.
Wow, that's amazing.
I use my feel, and I give them all Arabic names because I want them to connect with the Arabic words. We have the Allah Made Everything song that I use my lion for. And so I have a lot. I even have some things that are not puppets, but the kids still love to see things like the Ankabut. And so we use that a lot. And like I said, they love it. I don't know if you guys could see me when I was giving that tip about like, he can talk to you guys and you guys will think that he's speaking to you, but really it's me, but you guys don't know. And the kids really don't know, you know? It just seems like I'm doing it. And like I said, I'm not good at it. So what I do is I use tricks.
And sister, which one was your mystery box?
My mystery box, okay, let me, you see this right here? This is the thing I got from Target. I just added, you know, some words to it. I Mod Podge these things, and anything you take out of the mystery box is like the greatest thing ever. So let's see.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, I am gonna see, we're gonna go back one. Okay, I'm gonna quickly run through these. There's ways to make PowerPoints really interactive as well. Like for example, if you're doing a PowerPoint and you know, I'm just gonna have to show you. Sorry, we'll go back to this. Because I discovered this while I was presenting a PowerPoint about teeth. Now, if you look at this, you're at the PowerPoint and you're talking about Allah gave me my mouth, and you keep going down the PowerPoint and you're reading this to the kids, and you can make it interactive by saying, okay, can you point to the animal with a sharp tooth? Can you point to the animal with straight teeth that look kind of like ours? And then I ask them like, which teeth do you want? Point to that. Now, if you look below, one of the things I do in my classes, I do something called mommy talk. Now, this is where, if you've ever been in a classroom where you say, okay, turn to your classmate and talk about such and such. You're not really able to do that here. So if you have a sibling, they can talk to them, or they can pretend their hand is a puppet and talk to the hand, or if you have a mom nearby. My moms are nearby, so I often have them. Every class has one mommy talk, because for a lot of learners, the best way they can learn is by actually talking out loud, because they don't just take in information. That's not the way most kids learn. Now here, I had good snacks and bad snacks, all, they were on the chart in the right spots, and I figured if I just pretend and make a big deal like, oh my God, my food, it just fell off my chart. What are we gonna do? And the kids, you know, feel bad for me, and they're like, we'll help. And so what I do is I actually come off here and I say, thank you so much for helping. And I hold up, you know, each one of these, and I ask them, where does it go? And they say, bad, bad, bad. And what about the banana? Where should it go? Good, good, good. And so in that way, they're, again, engaging, they're excited again, they're enjoying it. Let's see. Let's go back to this. So I talked about ways that people learn. And so the reason I put in that mommy talk, or the fact that the kids get just 1 minute where I stop talking and I let them talk, is because then they're taking all the information I've just given them and they have to articulate it. Now, you've probably heard there's different types of learners, people who learn visually, people who learn auditory. I am neither of those. I'm the type of person that learns through getting a chance to speak aloud or do. And my son, who's 7 years old, when he's in madrasa class, one thing he was getting bored with is just listening, because he's like me, he's a kinesthetic learner. So he needs to do something to show that he's, part of it. So one thing that really worked for him is using something called a chat feature. You guys know the chat feature on Zoom. You can just type in answers. Now that can go crazy, of course, but if you're firm with your rules about it, and you might have to even say, we'll have to, close that off, which you can do. But I think most kids will be happy to oblige as long as they get chances where they get to type in their answers. Now that is a feature that you can use for your 2nd, 3rd graders. Have them answer you on chat, because for some reason it's so much cooler now that they know how to type to answer on a chat rather than answer out loud. I use a lot of rhymes and songs, and oftentimes I'll go to this website, which I forgot to link here, but there's a story time rhymes. They're obviously secular. So what I do is I take a lot of these songs and I'll implement them in transitions, or I'll change the words to Islamic words. And you'll see the next thing I want to show you is even a book that's secular. I'm going to change it into, and it's, basically it becomes all of a sudden an Islamic book. Now there's a very big difference between holding a book here, which I've done oftentimes in class. And if you guys can look at my video, you'll see I'm showing you one of Kisa Kids' books. And it's very difficult to actually engage people while they're looking at a book through a screen. And so what I found really works, I'm going to show you this, is uploading that book onto a PDF. And what Sister Savika let me know is that they're actually doing that for Kisa Kids. Now, if you guys can see, I have a secular book. It's called Our Five Senses. And when you look at this, the picture is right into your screen. It's like you're actually reading yourself. And I go through this, and do you see how it says we use our eyes to see? I'll say something simple like, did you know Allah gave us eyes to see? Subhanallah, He created things in such a perfect way. And did you know that that pupil lets light in? And we go through this book, and there's actually something nice about this one, where they have a part of this where they're actually asking the kids to engage. So here it says, can you sort sour, sweet, bitter, and salty into the different categories? And again, I'm like, okay, can you guys help me? And then the kids use the space bar, and they say sweet, sweet, sweet when I'm at the cupcake, and bitter, bitter, bitter when I'm at the coffee part. So that's the last thing I'll be sharing with you guys today. So that's, a really good way to engage. And of course, I constantly mention Allah. It's like this book was, created as a Muslim book. Okay, so let's see. I think I mentioned most of my tips. One thing I haven't told you is that when you're working with young kids, you want to give them as much of a screen break as you can. So what I suggest is, if you have something that you can do, like for example, when you're learning about the nose and how Allah created our nose, say, can you go find something that you like to smell? Or can you, if you have older kids, can you find something that you like to smell or something you don't like to smell? And then they go run off, and at least they're getting a break. They're disengaging from the screen, but they come right back to you. Or, can you go and hug your mommy and say, Alhamdulillah, thank you, Allah, thank you for creating my mommy. And so in that way, they're getting that screen break that they need. And you may have noticed, but I'm assuming that you guys are answering me when I ask things. I'm not giving you much of a pause because we're trying to get through this quickly. But I always assume my kids are answering me because likely they are. They're probably being like, yeah, no. But, I don't have time to call on everybody, so I use that. Now, when we're transitioning from one thing to the other, in a classroom setting, you're probably moving, and you can't really do that here. So one thing I like to do is, okay, we're about to read our book. Can everybody show me a book? And in the screen, I can see it and be like, oh, Ahmad, can you please show me your book? Okay. If you're ready to listen to a song, can you touch your ear? Or if you're going to a different, you know, coming back to something or changing, you can also do something like, okay, if you're ready for my game, touch your head. If you're ready for my game, touch your shoulders, touch your eyes, but don't poke them, touch your nose, but don't pick them. You know, just being silly gets them laughing, and then they're focusing on you again. There are lots of songs also for getting the wiggles out. I will not be sharing that on here, but stop singing that song even though it has nothing to do with your lesson, because it is important for these kids to get up and moving. And when you are doing a lesson, you saw that I didn't just do a book. I do book, song, game. We have another game. We sometimes share screens. Sometimes we come back to me. Sometimes I use this board. I think that's really important for young kids. One thing, they don't like to stay stagnant on anything. You also may have noticed that when I notice the kid is not engaging, I'll often say their name, not in a way to humiliate them, but, oh, Ahmed, can you please say that with me? Or can you show me that you're touching your head? And that way they feel so special that you called on them. And I actually try to do that with the kids who are engaging as well. I'm gonna skip the muting and muting because I think we've covered that. Let's see.
It's your okay, we can see it now.
You can see it? Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
we can.
great. Okay, so when I end my class, and this is my last slideshow for you guys, but when I'm ending my class, I like to do a simple guessing name that is related to, it's related to whatever we're learning. So what I do is here I say, okay, here's my game. And this is the thing that all the kids wait for the end of the class for. And it's really simple. This one I did make with felt shapes, but again, you could use my trick to just make it from a computer. But what I do is I say, okay, and I see them raising their hand. If you have older kids, they could press the raising hand feature or say on the chat, I want to do it. But then I say, okay, Ahmad, which color should I pick? And say, we're looking for Al-Khaliq, which one shows Al-Khaliq? And then we count together, 1, 2, 3. Okay, everyone together say Bismillah. And as they say Bismillah, you open it up. Oh, it's not in the red house. And then you keep going, you know, you different kids pick. And then, for example, I'll have this as a representation for Allah created that. You know, I like rhymes. So of course, saying goodbye is going to be a rhyme for me. You can say the kids' names, or we can just do a generic. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, we had lots of fun today. Or fi amanillah, fi amanillah. And then you can say something like come back again, which is what I do. Now is the time where I say, okay, I'm going to stay on for a few minutes. I have 5 minutes, and I would love for you to talk to me or ask me questions or just show me things, and the kids will run and get their favorite toy or their favorite baby brother or sister. And if they don't, I'll just say, oh, what is that? You know, where are you from? Where are you calling me from? Because you might have kids from Canada, London, Pakistan, and it's really nice to engage with them in that way. But that is all for me. So I'm going to hand this over to whoever is next. But thank you so much. And inshallah, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. I know I kind of sped through that.
Thank you so much.
Jazakallah, mashallah. Thank you, Sister Zahra, and thank you, Sister Fatima. Inshallah, we're going to have a few minutes of break, and after that, we're going to come back, and inshallah, Sister Masuma Haidari, she will going to continue that, inshallah. So a few minutes of break, and then Sister Masuma Haidari's presentation, and then it will be open discussion for Q&A, or anyone has any points to add. Inshallah, we're going to take care of that. For now, please recite the salawats. Okay, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Walaikum assalam. Walaikum assalam.
MashaAllah. I hope that so far you enjoyed the session, inshallah. Now, alhamdulillah. Thank you, Jazakallah. Now, inshallah, Sister Masuma Hadri, you're here? Sister
Yes,
Masuma?
Ron, I'm here. I'm here. I'm just gonna put the video on 1 second.
Good, inshallah. So,
Assalamualaikum,
alhamdulillah,
everyone.
alaykum salam. Sister Masuma Hadri is here. Inshallah, please cite us salawats.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
وآل محمد وعجل فرج.
Go ahead, Sister Masuma.
Okay, thank you, Malana. Assalamualaikum, everyone. I'm blessed to be here today with you to share some techniques, and I hope, inshallah, they'll help you with your teaching experiences. And as Sister Zahra mentioned some techniques earlier, this specifics portion of my presentation will have to do with older kids, which includes middle school and high school students. And often I know that, like, whenever in my experiences of teaching Islamic school, sometimes there will be some students who feel like they're coming there because they're being forced to come there, or they feel like they will show a disinterest, and there's different challenges with that age group. And it really all depends on the teacher during this time, because the teacher sets the tone. It makes them want to either come back. Of course, there's always different situations. But one thing I want us to keep in mind before I begin the presentation is that you see your students a weekend at a time, and a whole week has passed by. And as we, I think, heard from the presenters in the first session, teenagers and youth go through a lot of things, just like you adults and I go through a lot of things, challenges and problems. And sometimes it's nice to welcome them in really well and connect with them. And when you connect with them,
Yes.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, it's frozen the screen.
Yes, it's frozen.
Sister Masuma Haidari can, so I think she has some technical problem because of her maybe internet.
Internet
Probably net
problems.
connection, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So inshallah, Sister Masuma Haidari should going to join in a minute or so, inshallah. So meanwhile, I would like to thank again. And if you have any questions, please either you can text some of your questions, or inshallah you can have some your questions ready. You can either ask to one of the sisters, Sister Zahra Sabur, or Sister Fatima, or Sister Masuma Hadari, or myself, inshallah, and then we can move on. So till we're going to find out with Sister Masuma Haidari, please go ahead. If anyone has any question, please raise your hand.
Excuse me, Maulana.
Yes, Sister.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to see if maybe we could make a salawat for the people of Lebanon, and just to make use of this time, if that's okay. And keep
So thank you, Jazakallah. Thank you, Sister. Right now, what you said is, I was watching some of the things, and also our board also, they said that we have to send some sort of condolence, and also some, if we can plead for help, anything, inshallah, is good. Thank you, Sister, for reminding our brothers and sisters in Lebanon. As most of you aware, that yesterday it was a big incident, or I don't know what happened, but there's a lots of speculation about that. But the result is tens of our brothers and sisters, they lost their life, and thousands they're injured, and hundreds of thousands they misplaced, and also they lost their homes, their properties, and so on and so forth. please offer your prayers and offer your du'as to all of them, those who are affected at this time, inshallah. And also, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for ultimate peace and justice, and also the peace for those who are affected one, inshallah. Please recite 3 times salawat. Allahumma salli.
اللهم صل على
على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
الله جزاك الله خيرا مولانا.
أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه.
So, yes, Sister Bakari, Sister Masuma, her problem is resolved or not yet? Okay, Sister Masuma, if you are here, please let us know. So, Sister Bakari, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Maulana.
Alaykum assalam.
Maulana, I have a question regarding curriculum. Kisa Kids, mashallah, which has already published until 7th grade. So since we are, full-time Islamic school, I was wondering that if you could share some resources for our 8th grade and up students, which is pretty close to, what we have until 7th grade. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Inshallah, thank you, Sister Parveen. As Sister Fatima, she mentioned in the beginning, we are working in Salam Online. If you go to Salam Online, and if you register your school there, we're going to share all the resources what we have, not only for K to 7, either beyond 8th and 9th and 10th and 11th and 12th. We're working with different teams, including the brothers and sisters in Australia, and also Yusra Media and different resources. And we want to, inshallah, share that. It will be accessible for all the people, and including our LMS system, which is Google Classroom. We're going to, inshallah, share with those who wants to, inshallah, have access to our backend system, inshallah.
And actually, I have a second quick question as well. I saw in your curriculum on your website that you guys are, mashallah, you have included the health science as well. I think it's some kind of a textbook. I didn't see the publisher well, or probably I saw, but I don't remember now.
Yes, so we are working in 2 health books, one for the boys and one for the girls. This is for middle school, and also we are working for high school also. Brother Sami Hijazi and his team, they're working for high schools. But for middle school and older elementary school, Sister Mariam Hamkar and her team, they did fantastic job for the sisters health book, and it will be ready soon. And for the boys also we're working. So basically we're working with 4 books. One is for younger sisters and one for younger brothers, boys and girls. This will be ready, inshallah, soon. But the second one is for the older boys and older girls. It will going to take a little bit of time. Whenever it's ready, we're going to, inshallah, publish that also.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mana.
Thank you, Zaki. Sister, Brother Sayyid Naqabi.
Assalamu alaikum. My question is that the syllabus you have prepared from K2 to 7 or the 8 to 12, it is basically, as you discussed last time, that how many weeks or how many hours we are going to give. It could be used in a regular Islamic school as well. They are working 7 days or 6 days or 5 days a week, because probably we have different subjects and we have one class per day, for example, for a school. So could it be used and utilized as a basic syllabus of Islamic studies in regular Islamic schools?
Thank you, Brother Sayyid Naqavi. This is also an awesome question. And thank you for asking this question. Yes, our syllabus designed in a way that either you can teach in 40 minutes of one class, or you can expand to 3 classes. So you have the ability to do so. So with extra resources, and also especially in the teacher's guide, you will see lots of resources and also ways to expand that. So what happens is in Sunday schools, teachers, they don't have much of time. They go with bare minimum. But for full-time schools like ours, Rise Academy, we're using the same syllabus. And also in Walil Asr, they're using the same curriculum. And also in IC Houston and lots of full-time schools, they're using this, I'm talking about full-time Islamic schools, they're using the same curriculum. And it has features where you can expand to 3-4 classes, or you can shrink to 1 classes. You can do that. That's one of the main component of our curriculum.
Just to add it, that as I was working with one of the very large school of Shia community in Karachi, that is Fatimi Education Network, where we were trying to make a syllabus, and we made number of efforts. But again, when I'm looking to your curriculum, it is the backbone and the base of the curriculum is the same which we were designing. So it's better to utilize the resources rather than spending time and starting from scratch. So I would like to take it and to introduce it to my colleagues over there, as I am not there anymore, but my connectivity and relations with them is there.
So, Brother Said Naqabi, it's honor to work with anyone who wants to collaborate with us. Please let us know. And we are open and we are ready, inshallah. So if we can collaborate together, we can have a better result, inshallah. Absolutely. That would be our dream, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you very much.
Yes, Sister Firdaus Razvi.
Assalamu alaikum, Maulana. I have actually, I want to tell that Sister Zahra Sabur, actually, like, what she presented was like very nice and excellent. And it was not only like trading, but I think there's some natural talents needed. And not all the teachers who are teaching the young kids have such kind of talents. So in a Sunday school, usually you have voluntary people who are not that much trained. I don't know, how we should implement. And I have another question after that.
So I think Sister Zahra Sabur, she can answer your question. Sister Zahra Sabur, please answer this question. But meanwhile, what I want to say, Sister, is Alhamdulillah, the talent, what you're talking about, is not special gifted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Each and every one of you, you have that one. If you can little bit focus on and discover your talent, you'll be amazed that, wow, I had these great talents. So Sister Zahra Sabur, please go ahead. And it's only for the special people like you, or everyone, even like me, we can use it.
Of course, it has very, very little to do with me, and very much more to do with how you kind of perceive your energy to be when you start. So I think that one thing, it doesn't help that I sometimes think like a child as well. You have to kind of bring yourself into that, what does the child need from me, right? So oftentimes we have to get away from everything that we have to do as an adult. So putting all that aside, you think like a child, you go into the class just having fun. You take some of these tips, of how to make it fun. And it doesn't have to be that you're always the type of personality that can speak child level, but as long as you are doing some of the things like smiling and keeping talk very simple, getting to their level, I think that you could produce this and much more. There's nothing special about me. I think that everything that it comes from Allah, of course, and then I have a lot of experience with my nieces and nephews when I was growing up. So I was always trying to engage, trying to be part of that group. And so I think as I got older, I never really left that group. But I think everyone can, inshallah, take these tips. And as long as you want to do it, I think the kids will appreciate you for it. So
basically you're saying that even I can do that, right?
Mulana, you are doing that.
Thank you, Zakillah. So I think Sister Masuma is on. Sister Masuma, you're here?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm so sorry about that.
No problem. We recited salawat for you, mashallah. You got lots of reward. And I know that your
all your
husband
amal.
is by purpose doing that so he can get lots of reward, mashallah. Go ahead, sister.
Thank you. I don't know, today of all days, my Zoom has been acting up and it never ever does. So I'm really apologize about it. I was actually talking to myself for a good 2-3 minutes. And then I realized I didn't see anybody's faces. I'm so sorry about that. I'm just like Zahra, I need to learn my technology as well. I just wanted to share my screen here, Milana, but it's saying that, okay, yeah, it's allowing me now. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, everyone. Could someone just step in and tell me what you heard up to? If you could just tell me what was the last thing.
Masma, I think we didn't get to the lesson structure at all.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, okay, so let me go ahead and begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maybe that was it. I didn't start with Bismillah last time. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. All right, so Assalamu alaikum everyone. I just wanted to, I might repeat myself because I'm not sure what you heard last time, but I wanted to begin by telling you that alhamdulillah, it's a blessing to be here with you to share some ideas and to let you know that when you're dealing with middle schoolers and high schoolers, it's a different age group and different challenges. And just like you and I have challenges, ups and downs in life, so they're going through a lot themselves. And I think the number one thing that we can remember as teachers is to always have compassion, especially for where understanding where these students are coming from. Remember, you see them once a week. And that 1 week that's gone by, lots happens to them. And I know growing up, when I used to go to Islamic school on Saturday nights, there would be these late night weddings or majlises and all these things. And then the next day you have to get up and go to Islamic school. And it's sometimes you'll see that there are some kids who will come in there and they'll look like they're being forced to come or they don't want to be there. And it's really up to you as the teacher to make them feel like, I'm so happy you came and I'm so happy to see you, and really make that connection. There's this saying that's called warm demander, to be warm. And even if you're the type of person who doesn't have like a great sense of humor, and it's okay, but just even like smiling at them, that just shows that you're welcoming them. You know, you don't have to crack jokes all the time, but just welcome them and make them feel really important. So with that said, I want to just go into the activities and the routine, because none of this will matter unless you really have that connection and that they want to come back and they're looking forward to not just learning the content and the way you do it, but looking forward to seeing you. So the first thing I have over here in my slides is that there's 3 parts to a lesson, and just as Sister Fatima mentioned earlier, hook. Hook is just like the word, you hook something, you want to capture their attention, whether it's a quotation, if you want to put up a hadith or do a word web, or describe how you felt. It could be anything like describe how you felt the first day you wore hijab, or describe how you felt when you saw someone wearing hijab at your school, or whatever it is where you get thoughts out there. Anticipation guides, which I'll go over in a little bit. A photo or a comic or a video clip, you know, Al-Ham magazine and so many places have beautiful little clips that you can show. And, you know, these youth, they love looking at things, they love watching things. So even if it's a small clip to get their attention, but while they're doing the clip, you can tell them to do 3, 2, 1, which comes later, and I will explain what that is. A to C brainstorm, that's another technique to just, you know, get their attention. So for example, if that day's lesson is on the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, then they'll do A to Z, everything they know about the Prophet. So A, they would write Allah sent him. B, book, a book was sent to him. So everything that's related to the Holy Prophet goes from A to Z. And then a wonder wall and a 3, 2, 1. Those are all different ways, and I'll get into that later. The main lesson, and I know it's really challenging because a lot of us are not used to teaching online. If you're anything like me, I 100% prefer being in person and seeing them and talking to them. And this barrier of online makes it difficult, but just like there are pros and cons to being in a classroom setting, there are also pros and cons to having an online setting as well, because everyone's a different type of learner, and you can actually get their attention in different ways online that you might not be able to do in person. If you're anything like me, technology sometimes intimidates me and overwhelms me. But once you start practicing and you take it one step at a time, you can implement one step here, one step there, and it's actually not so bad. And you get to explore teaching in a different way, which is exciting. And so the first part of your lesson, you're going to have a mini lesson. But that mini lesson is not going to be like, you know, a long, boring lecture or presentation without really like interacting with them, but you have to be able to have a student-centered activity. And I'll show you a few examples, and you guys will also participate and show me also how you can actually get their attention even while you're explaining something. And I know like Zahra mentioned this earlier, but the technique is called cold call, that when you see, even like on like right now, I can see some of you on the side. If I see someone's looking out the window, like again, it's just to call them back in and say, look, I care about you and I want you to be here. And if you do it in a positive way, it's powerful. And you know, you show that you have high expectations for them and you want a high performing classroom. So you'll say, so Ali, what are your thoughts on the Battle of Badr, right? Or, and then you just kind of like bring them back in. And sometimes kids will say, I don't know, and they'll just shrug. And sometimes you might think in your head that that kid is someone who just doesn't want to be there. They don't care. I'm just going to, you know, you feel like giving up on that. But that kid actually needs you more than any other kid. And he's actually striving to actually get you to help him. He's basically saying, I need you and I need you to guide me. And even though it comes off like the opposite way, he actually needs you. And so you, or she, and you can basically at that moment know that you're not giving up on that student. And he says, I don't know, you can get someone else to answer. Then you'd be like, Ahmed, can you repeat what Muhammad said? Can you repeat that? And then you're in that note, and he knows that you're gonna come back to him. And so you're always, you know, giving them attention, and they also know to be aware and to be listening, because she might call on me. And it also gives a chance to like give, some students really want to participate, but there will be some students that kind of do so much participation that nobody else gets a chance. So when they actually are called on, they might be reluctant to actually participate, but by you doing that, you're showing them, I want to hear your opinion. I want to know what you have to say. So again, it has to be done in a positive way, not in a way where you're picking on them. Activities are stations, post-it gallery, their debate. A lot of these can be done in person, but I'm going to show you how to do some of these things online, since that's the way we're doing everything. And the last one is wrap up, which is a journal entry or an exit ticket. First thing I wanted to go over is an anticipation guide. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with this, but an anticipation guide, the point of it is to build a student's interest about a subject before you do it. So for example, in fiqh class, you might be studying Qums. And so you'll put statements on the left, and it's the idea of true and false, where they will read these statements, and just based on their prior knowledge, they'll have a before column. So before you do the lesson, they'll write true or false. And then we'll go over it together as a class, and you'll know how many of them actually thought something that's, you know, very true was false. And you'll kind of also get an understanding of how much they do or do not know about the subject. And then after the class is over or it's about to end, you say, please take out your anticipation guides again, open it up, and then you go over the after answers, like after you have learned the lesson. So this is one of the techniques for the hook, or when the beginning of class. Another technique for the beginning of class is known as Kim. So if you have key terms for your lesson, a lot of learners are also very visual and they like to draw. And now when you have technology with Zoom, when you make something like this, they can just Google an image and drag it in here. So they have the word on the left for the key idea, information to define it. And at the end will be like an image to help them remember that word. So if it's like, for example, taqleed, they'll write the definition and they can, you know, put a picture of, you know, Ayatollah Sistani or something like that, and then they have some way to remember it. Another technique is the concept map or word web. And you know, unfortunately, this example is Halloween, but this is very much doable with something like Muharram or Shahr Ramadan, and you can just put like, what do you know about Muharram? Things we do. They can do like matam, we go to majlis. How do we, you know, make our homes? We put up black sheets. We take out, you know, some cultures take out alams, things like that. What do we wear? We wear black clothes, and it helps them start brainstorming about Muharram, like what is Muharram in actuality. There is another concept called the Freyer model that you can also do in the beginning of class. So this is a very simple example using a rectangle. So on one corner of the box, you'll have a definition where you define it. Then on the other corner will be characteristics of that. So you'll write what is basically it's something that has angles. It's something that there's shapes, like it has a shape just like any other shape, and then you'll give examples of rectangles, but you can also write things that look like rectangles and then non-examples of what's not a rectangle. So for example, I put up here, imagine you replace that with hijab. You could say, what's the definition of hijab? What are examples of hijab? What are non-examples? What are properties of hijab? Is it just a cloth, or is it also like your demeanor and the way you carry yourself, everything else? Sorry, I'm trying to go a little fast because I'm trying to make up for the lost time, but if you feel like I'm going too fast, please feel free to just slow me down. Turn and talk is a big thing that we use in the classroom. And in the beginning of class, you'll put a prompt up. Now, a prompt is anything where it's a question to just try to get them thinking. So something as simple as, why is Hajj important, or something like that. And you'll say, turn and talk to your partner. Now with online, what you can do with Zoom, you have these breakout sessions, or you could just do for a simple chat. You can, if you look at your chat feature, you can message somebody, and you can even pre-assign partners ahead of time so they know who their partner is for that class. And that's who they'll turn and talk, where they can chat with and just exchange ideas. And then you share out loud with the whole class what you got. And I'll explain Zoom breakout sessions a little bit more in detail later. Organizing notes. I know Sister Fatima had mentioned this earlier, but basically one of the best ways to do note taking is to teach students how to make a T-chart, and you can actually make it on a Google Doc for them and share it with them, or you could present it and show it to them. But it's a way to capture thinking and feed discussion later. So on a separate sheet of paper, they jot down important quotes or information from like whatever they're reading. So for example, in the Kisa curriculum, there's a lot of material to read. So as they're taking notes, they'll write, you could do it in different ways. And I explain that in the right side. So on the left side, they might write the information or a quote that they liked or any sort of key terms. And then the right side, they could write their analysis, their reactions, or they could write the answers. So they give them instructions to please take out a sheet of paper, fold it in half lengthwise and unfold it. If this is in person, you would tell them that, but with online, they can just do it in a graphic organizer. 4 ways you can do that is by putting questions on one side, answers on the other, or cause and effect. For example, Battle of Badr, this was the cause and this was the effect. Cause, effect, compare and contrast, mustahab things, wajib things. Major details, the events of Ghadir, details on the right side, what happens at the events of Ghadir, and so on and so forth. Then there are Venn diagrams. So Venn diagrams are a beautiful way for them to compare the view of different things even within Islam, not just outside of religion, but to compare. So for example, I'm going back to mustahabs and wajibs, but there's also things that are mubah, things that, can be considered mustahab. So anything that you want to put in there. I am going to quickly show you an example of a sheet that you can make. Is everyone following my new screen right now? You can see it, right? Just want to be sure.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. This is an example of a sheet that you can use with your class, where you can actually create a sheet before they come in and share it with them if you have their emails, or they can make it on their own documents and send it to you later, where this would be an example of Kim. and you could put Hajj, Arafah, religious information, and they can just Google image. And you can easily make a word web, like for example, Rajab, and you could tell them, think of anything you know about Rajab, type it in. And this is an example of the month of Rajab, of the ways you can write things about the the month of Rajab. And then also the Freyer model. You could write, for example, ikhlas, sincerity. What is sincerity? What are characteristics of someone who is sincere? What are examples of people sincere? What are non-examples? Like someone showing off how much namaz they do or something like that. You could put it as a non-example. So you can, you know, create these beforehand. One thing I also wrote down here is as homework assignments, there's so many ways to even use index cards, places of burial, ziyarat sites, duas, alphabets, character cards, to make flashcards, and there are even flashcard apps as well. Going back here, a lot of the times you'll have students read the material from the curriculum itself, but I really encourage everyone to also bring in outside articles, like anything that relates, so that they are critically challenged, whether it's an article on consumerism, how does this, you know, support Islam or go against Islam, and have them do different types of text readings to be aware of the different, you know, different types of knowledge out there. And one of the things you can do while students read is something called text codes, so that when they're reading, as they're reading, they actually are talking to the text, they're interacting with the text. So when you're reading something and you knew that, or you're like, oh, this, you know, I've actually heard this before, a check. Something that doesn't make sense to you, an X. Something that you're confused about, a question mark. Something that was such an exciting fact for you, an exclamation point. Something that's important, a star. If you can visualize it and imagine it, so imagine you're reading a scene about one of the, like the Battle of Badr. You can imagine the bravery of Imam Ali alayhi salam. You can put like an eye, I can picture this happening. If you can connect this event to another event, you put like that link sign. And hopefully I tell them not to use this one, but it's just there for fun. But this is boring, I'm falling asleep, is a Z, but most of them try not to use that, alhamdulillah. And then at the end of class, I like to do this a lot, and I also like to do this during videos, is a technique called 3, 2, 1. It's basically 3 things that you have learned from this lesson, 2 questions that you still have, or 1 aspect of the class that you enjoyed today. So even, for example, today's class, imagine we ended it and I say, okay, everyone, 3, 2, 1, and you would just type in your Google Doc or whatever platform that we're using, 3 things you learned, 2 questions you still have that you might want to have answered next time, and 1 aspect of the class that you really enjoyed. Last thing in terms of the ending the class is exit ticket. The exit ticket is there for you to basically check for understanding. Did they understand the crux of the lesson today? So before they leave class, normally in like an in-person setting, you would give them a little slip. They'd write the answer and they give you the slip on their way out. Over here, what you can do using Slido or anything else, you could put an exit ticket. You can have them describe 3 ways to be tahir, or what does the event of Dawat al-Ashira tell us about Imam Ali alayhi salam. And this is like your summary question to see whether they understood the actual lesson and whether the objective was successful. Virtual stations. This is something that normally in class kids love doing because it gives them a break from sitting, and they would get up and they would go to different corners of the classroom and they would write answers on different posters and chart paper. But how can we do this virtually? The idea is maybe through a Google folder. The idea of virtual stations is that students visit different stations or documents. You can even put a hadith or anything, and they record their reaction there. Before class, you can assign them each a color that when they're writing in their text, like Zahra, you're writing in red, Ahmed, you're writing in blue. So they don't even have to sign their name. They just know which text color they are, and they go and they respond. And it's a way for them to brainstorm when introducing a new topic. So for example, if you are doing hijab, you can have a folder called stations. And then within each station, you can put 3 categories, station A. So they can open up station A over here and they'll see a question that says, how does hijab benefit you? So if I am Zainab and my color was pink or purple, I'll say it protects me from it protects me basically, right? And then if you go to station B, you could go, there's another question that you can start off with hijab, and you see everyone's different responses. What are some challenges you may face while wearing hijab? This is like the, you know, very traditional route to do it through Google Docs, but when I explain some of the different technologies that we'll be exploring today, you'll see how easy it is actually to even do it with those technologies, inshallah. But the idea is that stations, they go to different stations, they interact with the question, and they can even respond to each other on those questions, and they have a designated color that this is them. Quotation mingle, but I also like to call it hadith mingle. I'm just gonna go ahead and share this big screen here again. Their students are told, they're not told the topic of the day. Instead, they're each given a random and different quote. So you might have different hadith. So maybe you're teaching the importance of not backbiting. So you'll have different hadiths on backbiting, and they'll each read a different hadith, and in the chat, they'll pair up and they will exchange those hadiths. So then they'll say, you can guess, and then they'll say, can you guess what today's reading is about? Or can you, if you had to give a title to today's lesson, what would it be? The next thing I have here, oh, sorry, is a jigsaw article. With the jigsaw article, kids often become empowered when they're a specialist in a specific subject with depth. So when you are distributing different articles, for example, if you're covering Shahr Ramadan, one person might get an article on fasting, and a person might get an article on Laylatul Qadr, and they pair up and they talk about the different articles that they got. Or you could do this with different passages. And then next, I wanted to just go over a couple things that you can use for online learning, specifically Zoom features and different types of things that are out there right now, especially with COVID-19. So many different things are available for us. There's something called Padlet, which you have to pay for, but all the rest, majority of these are all free. Flipgrid, Polav, Nearpod, Slido, Poll, and all, so on and so forth. For Zoom features, I wanted to quickly just discuss the breakout rooms. The breakout room allows you to split your Zoom meetings in up to 50 separate sessions. The meeting host can choose to split the participants of the meeting into these separate sessions automatically or manually. And in the breakout room, the students can use the whiteboard feature to record ideas. And additionally, an instructor could also provide a Google Doc, perhaps a link in that chat group for all groups to record their ideas. So in this link, these are some teaching activities that you can do using breakout rooms. Then there's the whiteboard. If you don't want to share your screen, you can always use the built-in whiteboard feature that comes with Zoom. And this feature can take some getting used to, especially if you're using a mouse. To use it, basically you share your screen and choose whiteboard. Enable annotations. I think this was used last in one of the first sessions. When you're sharing your slides or photos, the participants can actually annotate by writing over an image, highlighting it, and they can view the experience and make it much more interactive. Virtual backgrounds, I know a lot of them, people use them just for fun to have different backgrounds, and you know, students can get carried away, but you could say, if you agree with me, make your virtual background red, just to have a little fun with the fact that you're online and you can do different things. Then we have here, oh, sorry, these are the same things. Over here, we have something called Flipgrid. And Flipgrid is to create a discussion topic, and you share it with your learning community. Now, the wonderful thing about Flipgrid is that instead of writing a response, you're actually videotaping yourself. And this comes, I feel, really in handy with Quran classes, if you want them to recite a surah back to you, or you want to see whether they're doing the pronunciation correctly. And so I wanted us to test it out. If you all can go, sorry, if you all can go to this link right here, I'm gonna see if I can post it in the chat, and then you can try it and just kind of take a look at what it has. And I've put a question there. Let me see if I can just put it in the chat so it's easier. So I'm just gonna go ahead, copy and paste it, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm still online, right? You guys, I'm not talking to myself.
No, you're online.
Yeah,
Okay.
you are.
When I tried to log into the Flipgrid, it's saying that the email domain with Gmail is not allowed to join. So I don't know if anybody else is having that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Sometimes you need password for Flipgrid.
Okay, so you know what? Instead of us doing it, I'm just going to basically show you what you would have done. So basically, if you make an account, you can create new grids. And for example, in this flip grid, I made one about fasting. So I would go on fasting, and if you click there, there's a question that says, say at the end of class, you want to see whether students mastered the material, and you'd say, what are the benefits of fasting? Then you would go ahead and record a response. You would click on that, and the student, and like the actual video comes up, they record themselves, and it says 3, 2, 1. They say fasting is very beneficial for you. Stop, and then next, and 1. They say fasting is very beneficial, and then you review it and you take a selfie. So students don't even have to sign off who they are with their name because it takes a picture of you. And you know, it depends on how comfortable the students are doing this, but after that you click next, and then it posts your answer, and it uploads your video. But I tried some out earlier, and you can go there and you can see everyone's replies over here and whoever posted their video. And then you could see like what they said, and all the different responses start showing up. So that's a quick, neat tool to have for like if you ever want anything recorded, where they can record a response and actually send it to you. The next thing is, I think this was discussed in the class prior to this, so I didn't want to get into too many details about this, but Nearpod, I know all of you used it before, and also Slido, and Menti, and I think Sister Fatima in the beginning of class when she had that first screen up was Mentimeter, and where it's basically the same idea. You put a prompt up, people give feedback immediately, and you get to share the responses and discuss them. So even if you Google these and you take a look, you'll get so many different ideas because they have more than just, you know, prompts. They have like all these different interactive things like polls, quizzes, etc. There's something called PollEv, which is a survey. If you can all go to pollev.com, and if you can go ahead there and then put not Masuma, it says Masum Haydari 815 to join a presentation. If you can just try it out, and someone can tell me whether it's working. I hope it didn't log me out or anything. You should show up to a screen that has a question such as this. Hussein Adan is a sincere brother who is setting an example for others to follow, and then you should be clicking either true or false. And after you do your poll, the answers all should start showing up. You would be on a page like this, where you would put this code over here, and you can join it. And as soon as you've joined, I'm wondering if,
yeah, it's saying that the presentation is underway. As soon as the activity is active, you'll see it on the screen here. Stay put.
Oh, maybe.
Like it asked me for my name, so probably it works, right?
Oh, okay, actually maybe.
Welcome to Masum Haydari.
Yeah, I have to click on present. So let me click on present, and then if everyone can try it now.
Yes, now it works.
It works for me.
Oh, perfect. So whoever has written true, the true responses come. False, you get a chance to know what your classroom thinks about the situation, whether it's true or false, depending on what they all responded to that question. And another really cool thing about PollEv is that once you sign in as a teacher, there's all these other cool features. I just use the true and false one right now as a poll, but there's multiple choice, there's word cloud, there's competition, true or false. There's diagrams and different things that you can check out once you are there. So that's another really great tool to have. Sorry, I'm not looking for everyone's responses right now, but I just wanted you to get familiar with the tool. And the next thing is Kahoot and Quizlet, which I think a lot of you are already familiar with because, mashallah, our communities have really been using that throughout Shahr Ramadan and stuff. But games, children love games. There is another site called Scribble.io. It's a website that allows people to play Pictionary on different machines. And you can either join in a public lobby or create a private one. You can make Islamic Jeopardy. There's different templates for that. Islamic Family Feud. I know our masjid did it like when we used to live in LA. They had done it and it was a lot of fun. Scavenger hunts, where maybe your theme is Gadir and you get everything related to Gadir and they go find it and they have to explain what it has to do with the event of Gadir. Play I Spy with My Eyes just for an icebreaker. If you want to take a quick break and then they have to look at an object in the room and do I Spy and you have to guess. Bingo, Box of Lies. There's so many different different types of games. Then there's another app called Peer Deck. And it has already created lesson plans from like social emotional learning and different topics. But of course, unfortunately, a lot of those topics are secular, but it still comes in handy. And this link here is 20 ways to use it. So if you go to this link here, I'm not sure if it's gonna let me, or otherwise I will just basically show you how it works. But one of the ways that I used it, let me see if I can put this in the chat. Where is the chat? Okay, participants.
In the more, 3 dots.
More, thank you. I'm teaching technology here, but I can't find the chat feature. Okay, here we go. And so if you click on that, and if it will take you to something that should look like this. Does everyone see that once you click on the link?
Yes.
Yes, sister.
Okay, great. So once you're starting a lesson on a specific topic, you could do, what do I know about this subject? What do I want to know? And what do I want to learn? So for example, if your topic is hijab, what do I know about hijab? And then you could start actually writing, and you could say, and you can even share this as a screen where you can use it as a blackboard. And for example, I had put these answers earlier. There are many, I did it for Peer Deck. What do I know about online technology? That there's a lot of resources out there. What I want to know is how do I use Peer Deck? And then at the end of the lesson, what did I learn? I just wrote everything. And then all the answers pop up at the end after everybody has responded, you start seeing their responses here. And then you could click on show responses, and then you can hide responses, and you can lock the screen as well. And then if you go over here, what's wonderful about this tool is that they have different tools for like each part of the classroom. For the beginning of the class, you can use different things. For during class and the end of class. So they use KWL here, reflect on today's activities, which are like nice techniques that they actually incorporate in this whole website itself. Otherwise, you can always, Google graphic organizers and find really friendly tools as well. And the next thing is Canvas discussions. I think even in one of the classes, the Canvas discussion is being used with the scholar. So you can just go there and have a discussion. Your instructor can be on there. And another thing I really wanted to encourage is even having guest speakers. If you're talking about Hajj, for example, with your Sunday school class, imagine inviting on a guest speaker in your Zoom class. The advantage of Zoom is you can invite people from anywhere. You can invite that scholar from London, or you can invite that scholar from Canada. And so you can invite anyone and they can be your guest speaker, and they can talk about how their Hajj experience was, or they can talk about things. PowerPoints are also a wonderful tool, not just for the teacher, but to even ask the students to create actual PowerPoints, and where they can actually, the best way to learn is to teach it yourself. And the last thing is demos. Demos really go a long way, because now they're not focused so much on the content of the reading material, but they're watching what you're doing, and then they're trying to connect it to what's happening. So with that said, I'm going to end with one demo just to explain to you how you can use this feature. So I'll say, Assalamu alaikum class. So we learned so much about taqwa today. And inshallah, I hope all of us have taqwa. And just like we wear clothes to protect ourselves, if there's a thunderstorm out there, we're going to get an extra jacket, we're going to put on a hat, we're going to make sure we're all comfortable and warm. Same with taqwa. When we wear the shield of taqwa, we're protecting our soul through the remembrance of Allah. We're protecting ourselves by remembering Him. We're being protected from sins, and we're being protected throughout life. A quick demonstration I want to show you is that you see this little orange here. This orange, it has no taqwa. Why? What do you notice about this orange? If anyone can tell me, what do you notice about this orange?
It's peeled.
No
It's
protection.
peeled.
No
Yes.
protection,
No
yeah, no
protection.
cover.
Exactly,
No
it's peeled. And because it's peeled, when I put it in the water, does it float or does it go into the water? Earlier when I did this, it went all the way to the bottom. It goes into the water and it's sinking. So when we don't have taqwa in our lives and we don't have the remembrance of Allah, it's easy to get engulfed in this dunya and get lost. And then we can sink deep so much inside and get distracted that we forget about Allah. But when we are wearing taqwa and we do have our peel, and notice what happens with this orange that's wearing taqwa, is it sinking or floating on the top?
Floating. Floating.
Exactly. So if you notice in this example right here, this orange here is floating on the top. It has taqwa. So no matter how many distractions there are in the ocean of the dunya, you'll always stay afloat and Allah will help you sail through this world and you will not sink into the dunya, and you'll, Allah, with that protection and remembrance of Allah, you'll sail through any trials, you'll sail through life by having that protection. So with that said, if everyone can recite a salawat, I think that's the end for my part, and inshallah maybe if we want to do a quick Q&A.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. اللهم صل.
Thank you very much.
Not there, or?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sister Masuma.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Sister Masuma, excellent presentation. Thank you.
Excellent presentation, Masuma.
Thank you, mashallah.
Great. All your tips, inshallah. I've been asked to remind you guys that next week is going to be the last training through Kisa Foundation with Maulana Abadi. And that we're here to support you guys and help you throughout whatever process you guys are going through right now, whatever options you do embark on. And there are two options if you would like to choose Salam Online as your choice of how you want to go about that. If you already have a madrasa, you could have your madrasa join Salam Online, and you will be taught the learning management tools that they mentioned earlier in this meeting. Or if your area does not have a madrasa, your students can actually join Salam Online individually as well. Also, oh, and I did forget to mention that some of the teachers they've selected, they kind of handpicked their teachers because that's something that they can do with this online platform. For example, I will be teaching pre-K, inshallah, for Salam Online. So if you have any students who are pre-K age, then I will be their teacher. And I'm using a lot of these tips that I taught you today in order to make that a exciting experience for them that they want to continue with. The other thing I was supposed to mention is that Rise Online is a full-time school that they have. And if you're interested to learn more about that, there's a meet and greet next Friday. And I believe it has been sent to you on chat. Yeah, sorry, I think I lost you guys. But anyway, that's all there is from us. If there's any questions that you have, I believe Sister Fatima, Sister Masuma, and Sister Nai, and I think Maulana Abadi's gone, but I can also stay on if you have any questions.
Assalamu alaikum, can you hear me? Assalamu alaikum, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thank you very much. My question is for Sister Masuma. As I work with the group of tweens and teens, and as we migrated to the Zoom sessions, the main challenge that I face is that is on the hook stage, like getting connected with them right in the beginning of the session, because most of the students, they don't want to open their camera. Even if I ask them, or even if I say, I prompt them that, all right, who wants to be brave enough to open the camera? Nobody. And now that creates kind of a hurdle for me. And I'm thinking, like, should I make, if I make it mandatory for everyone to, you have to open your camera in the class, would that be a good strategy? Because it's like imposing something on the teenagers that, you know, that's something that they don't like. So what's the best way to do?
So if I heard you correctly, sorry, I was a little bit distracted, but basically how do we engage the teenagers, and if they don't want to open the camera and they...
Yeah, basically, like, do you think that if they don't open the camera throughout the class, do you think we can engage them?
I think it's extremely important to have the camera on, especially when you're dealing with teenagers, because you know, for all you know, they could be on a different website or anything else, and their, you know, parents, you know, might assume they're in class, and you can say to them, you know, I trust all of you, but the reason I'm asking you to keep this camera on is because it helps me see your reactions, to see how, whether you understand something or not, and really make it a requirement and set that expectation that when you're part of this class, that's part of the expectations, and make that clear to the parents too.
Right. And do you think we can make it like mandatory for them if we write it as a requirement of the class? Would that be a good strategy?
I think so. What do you think, Zahra? I personally think that it's important, especially because, like, when we're in real classroom settings and COVID was not happening, we'd be seeing them. And part of being a teacher is analyzing whether they're understanding the information, not just verbally and what they're writing, but even orally, like with their expressions, and maybe doing like a thumbs up, thumbs down. And, you know, you need them for that, to check for that understanding.
I agree. I believe that you can require it, just like you know, these kids have to go to madrasa. It's kind of like one of those options where you have to kind of join. And if you're joining, I'd like to see your face. And that can be something that you can put as a contract for when you join madrasa, something that, you know, that can go out in the parents' email. And just like you would follow up with any classroom management issues, you can even send emails to parents if you're noticing a trend of someone removing their video from. And I think that's a very important part of the engagement. So yes, I would say yes, it should be required.
Thank you very much.
I think Sister Firdaus, you had a question? Sister Firdaus, do you still have a question for us?
No, I asked and you answered it. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay. Sure. Anyone else? Sister Akram?
Assalamu alaikum to everybody, and thank you for a very nice presentation. Would you please repeat the mommy you were talking in your presentation? I put it in the chat box.
Sure. Before I do that, Sister Akram is my son's, he was 1 year old when she was his teacher, his very first teacher. And this is one of the best women I've ever met in my life, mashallah. So
impressed with Sister Zahra.
Not at all. You are what I look up to. So Sister Akram, you mentioned that you wanted to know more about the Mommy and Me classes that I run currently.
No, you said in part of your presentation, you said as a part of your Zoom session, you have a few minutes that you are involving the moms. I didn't quite get that part.
The mommy talk.
Yeah, so Sister Masuma is actually one of the moms that comes to my class. Oh, so what I do is, so the mommies have actually a lot of rules. They have to be next to their kids. And I don't know if we could do that for Salam Online, but I think it's very important when you have young kids to have their moms actually sit next to them to help guide them, because you can tell them as much as you want, please don't unmute yourself, but they're gonna unmute themselves. So having moms next to them is really helpful, right? And one of the things I do is actually say, I wanna see moms' faces too. And some moms are like, we can do that, we can't do that, that's fine. But oftentimes I'll have their children like turn to their moms and I'll say, okay, ask your mom, do you think it's really that important to have a nose? Like, why did Allah give us a nose, right? And so they'll have to like actually talk about this before I tell them why we need a nose. Or for example, is there something like, did Allah really create that chair? You know, and when they talk to their moms, they're engaging in a different aspect besides just listening and writing. Now they're having to actually think through and talk it out. Because in Salam Online, we may not have moms there, but you could even assign it to them. Like, after this class, can you go to mommies and ask them this question? And inshallah, that's how I would go about it. Does that answer your question, Sister Akram?
Yes, thank you so much, dear.
Thank you. Any other questions? Sister Sidra?
Yes, hi. I just wanted to ask about the assessment strategies that you are going to use in Salam Online. How would you do that for each and every child?
Are you speaking for the younger kids or the older?
Younger and older both.
So I don't really believe in assessing younger kids in the way that maybe a lot of people understand assessment to be. My assessment is through class. So for example, if I see them even engaging, I kind of take that as an understanding. If they're able to answer some of the questions I ask them, I see that as assessment. So there's really not an exact assessment. If you get up to 2nd and 3rd grade, you know, actually, I'm going to ask Sister Masima if she knows more about this. Sister Masima, do they have any kind of assessments?
Yeah, I think from my understanding, there will be assessments, like an exit ticket is going to be part of the Salam Online. So the exit ticket is, you know, asking that question at the end of the lesson, making sure everybody's on the same page. And if you see people are writing responses that, you know, that are not making sense, you'll be like, okay, either I didn't explain this clearly, but if everyone else got it correctly, then maybe this person was a little bit distracted. Other assessments, from what I know, there's like going to be quizzes at the end of like certain classes. They have a lot prepared. I don't know if Fatima Hussein's still on this call, but she's really knows the Salam Online curriculum also really inside out. But from what I have been told, I know that exit tickets will be there, as well as quizzes and all those sort of things. And, you know, assessments don't always just have to be just written, and they can also just be different types of assessments. Those are more formative assessments, but you could just check for understanding based on their classwork, based on their participation, based on whether they're giving you a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or they're responding to you. So there's different ways to assess throughout. Yeah, so I hope that helped.
Right, and I wanted to mention that if you have a 2nd grade, 3rd grader, something that I just learned actually from Sister Masima's session is you could ask a simple question to them at the very end of class, and then teach them how to privately respond to you so that they're not just copying someone else's answers, because you know kids do that, but they could privately respond to you, or you could do the 3 things you learned as a private message as well. But as you know, the actual assessment through Salam Online, maybe Sister Fatima can speak to that.
Yeah, so I think a part of it is that it will depend on the teachers. Different teachers use different methods of assessment, like the 2 sisters just mentioned right now. There will also be, like, there are quizzes that have been created for each of the grades for, you know, the different subjects. But again, those, you know, they may or may not be used like fully, but there are online quizzes that have been created, assessments.
Thank you. Sister Hamida, did you have a question for us? And then Sister Shazi, I'll get to you right after.
Yes, please. I have a question about the book Steps to Perfection. Should we teach the book's contents from the beginning to the end in order, or we can mix, you know, the contents together and teach to the students?
Do you have a grade that you want to, do you have a particular person in mind to answer that?
I think that Sister Fatima, yeah, Sister Fatima.
Sure. Yeah, so it's actually really up to you. I personally, when I've taught it, I like to jump around. I don't like to teach in order. It's because right now it's all of aqaid and all of fiqh, history, and akhlaq. I think that gets very monotonous, so I do like to break it up. And sometimes lessons go together. So for example, you might be teaching the lesson on aqaid that has to do with Nabuwa. And so if there's another lesson in history that talks about certain prophets, that is compatible with the Nabuwa lesson. So maybe that's the next lesson that you're going to teach, because it helps students get the theoretical and then also the practical application. So I think part of like one of the good teaching methods is to use the different lessons and look at them and how they relate to each other. And definitely, I would not recommend going in order. You could go in order, but I really do recommend mixing it up.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sister.
Sure.
Before Shazia, someone mentioned how long these classes should be. I'm going to speak for the younger ages. I would say 20 to 30 minutes is more than enough for anyone under the age of 7. Sister Masima, do you know the age for the older?
The ages for the Salam Online, you mean?
Sorry, not the age, the time. I didn't say that properly.
The time for the class? I don't know. I think Fatima would know that as well for the exact time. But I think they'll have like a longer attention span. So I think it would probably the same time as Sunday school runs. One thing I wanted to mention, sorry, excuse me, was that someone brought up how certain students will try to change the topic or they'll bring up something different during class. There's a technique called tea time. And tea time is basically that one student who will say, but why are we getting an exam? Or do we really have to have this due next week? I have so much already on my plate. Or do we really like, and they're like kind of like that one student that's always complaining about things, or they try to, you know, distract you from the actual lesson to talk about other things, or they're talking to you about sports or anything else that comes up. You have to, with that technique, with tea time, say, hey, I love your question and I'd love to discuss this with you, but let's table that for tea time. And tea time is basically at the end of class, you and I can have a lovely chat about that. And chances are that student will not want to stay at the end of class and talk to you about it. So the idea is that you don't get off track, because there's so many tangents that tend to come up throughout teaching, and so you can use the tea time for that.
Thank you, Sister Masima. Sister Shazia, your question?
Yes, thank you very much. My question is like, so you suggested the breakout rooms as a Zoom feature. So how do you supervise breakout room? Because if there is one teacher and you are dividing students into like 3-4 breakout rooms. So how would, is it necessary to supervise them, or like how do we make sure that they are really talking something relevant to the subject, or, you know, the discussion is not going astray?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because when you're in person, you can actually circulate the classroom, and that's a really good technique for a teacher to not just sit at their desk, but walk around and engage. And I believe there is a way for you to hop into different chats and keep an eye on them. But also, one of the techniques is also send a Google link to them that they record all their notes and their conversation, and they copy and paste it over there, everything that they've been discussing. And that way, and you tell them to email it to you by the end of the classroom period. So they're accountable, just like you would submit classroom work in person, then they know they're accountable for that time, that they're not just sitting there talking about, I don't know, like a movie they saw or something. So then everything is there and you get a response.
Yeah, there's a way to hop between each class. If you have 2 people teaching the class, for example, if you have a TA, one could be in each breakout room, but there's a very easy way to do that. And I'm actually going to note down that I want to send you a very quick video about Zoom and breakout rooms that the makers of Zoom have created, and it was very informative. So I'll send that to you, or I'll send that to everyone when they get the presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
I just wanted to comment on the breakout rooms, is that one thing that I've also done with my students is that at the end, I would have them come back. I wouldn't have a very long breakout session. So they had to come back and share as to what they discussed. So it kind of brings it in that sense of responsibility that they're accountable for what they were talking about as well. Just an added comment.
Thank you. That's really helpful. I think we got everyone's questions. Oh, Sister Sidra.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask which reward strategy or system you want to use online with your students for lower primary and for the higher grades as well.
Do you want to take that first, Masma?
Sorry, could you repeat your question, Sister Sidra?
Like in online classes, would you like to give rewards to your students for good behavior, maybe for good participation? So how would you do that at the end of the session, or what kind of strategy or what kind of system do you like to use on online platforms?
Oh, I see. Okay. I think like for me personally, when I feel like if you're giving any like material rewards too much, you don't want them to get used to that as a habit, that there's always going to be a reward. But when you set the expectations, that these are the expectations for it, that also makes them feel like when there is a reward, it's like a once in a while kind of thing. But I think for me personally, the reward is really also praise. I would say thank you for sharing your answer. And there's a lot of the times the wording and how we use things and it really matters, that even if someone is normally being disruptive, instead of calling them out and saying, I need you to show me, to say, thank you for listening. Thank you for contributing. I love the way you phrase that. So that acknowledgement in itself is an intrinsic reward. And then there's like that other sense of reward where you might in your classroom normally say like, whoever did the homework for the past 5 weeks, they get a free homework pass. Are you talking about those types of rewards and tokens, things like that?
Yep, those ones.
Right. So I think if you want to continue with something like that, because they're submitting in work and stuff, you can continue those policies. But once again, I think like that reward at the end of like a whole unit for the whole class, maybe you guys can watch like an Islamic movie together or do something like a game or something that's enjoyable that they would really like and that they look forward to. They'll be like, okay, let's all get on task right now, because at the end she's going to show us a really fun clip of something or something that you know that they enjoy doing.
Those are really good tips. I especially like the one with games. Like my son's madrasa teacher, he would do Jeopardy games at the end of sessions where he felt the kids were great. And so they would be like looking forward to these. There's a quick tip I can show you right now. If you take your whiteboard and just write, say you have the word MashaAllah, and then this I would say for older kids, right? As they are, you can't see this, can you? But say as they are doing a great job, you can just check it and say they get to the end, then you give them that game. However, and I don't know if you want to do this with MashaAllah, it also works in the other way, where if you have kids who are just like the whole class is being really distractive, they're sending like silly emojis on the chat, you can start erasing ones, and then they realize that they miss out at the end. As they keep going, you're like, oh man, I had to erase another one. Again, I don't know if that's appropriate for something like MashaAllah. But what I found with really young kids is that their biggest reward is like just mentioning their name. Oh my goodness, Masma, I saw that you put your hand on your head. You're showing me that you know what we're talking about, which I haven't given you context. But one thing that we do in my classes is say I am asking a question, and like this letter is, you know, does anyone know what this letter is? And not everyone can answer. So say one person answers, like Sister Akram answers, and the rest of you knew it, and you feel like, I knew that too. I always say, put your hand on your head if they answered what you were going to answer. So if you already knew the answer and you're super smart, put your hand on your head. That way I go around and see, so Sister Akram answered, but I see that Zainab knew the answer, Antul knew the answer, Masma knew the answer, you guys, mashallah. And I continue to say that. And what Sister Masma mentioned about being specific with your rewards, I don't want you to just say good girl, good boy. Those are actually very harmful in terms of their motivation in the class, because they feel like if you're not constantly telling them that they're good, that they feel like they're not anymore. So in terms of praise, you're really saying, I see that you are really jumping with that song. I really like that. I can see your mouth moving. You must be really singing that song with me. So it's more in that way. So there's less you have to do with younger kids.
Yeah, there's something called growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And when you praise the process more than the results, that you show them you care more about them trying hard and working hard versus what the end result is.
question answer.
Thank you so much. That was really good.
Yeah, no problem.
Really helped me.
Looks like Sister Until has a question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Are you the one for my classes?
Yes, and I just wanted to comment on that. Just wanted to let everybody know you did a fabulous job. I did a 5-week course with Zahra, with the Mommy and Me, with 2 of my daughters, my 5-year-old and 1-year-old. You were phenomenal, amazing. The way you interacted and engaged with them. Like, not only was it fun for them, it was fun for me also. I stayed the whole time and did the whole unmuting and muting. But alhamdulillah, such a blessing to have you here.
Thank you so much. That's really, really nice. I would be blushing, but I'm Desi, so I don't really blush. But
And Masuma is my childhood friend from New York. You did such a good presentation, mashallah, Masuma. I'm so happy and proud of you, mashallah. Hope you prosper more than love to your kids also.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for those comments. I think we're actually ready to end with that. Just a reminder, we are here to support you and help you this whole way. We didn't just give this presentation as a take this and we're gone. We're going to be here for you guys. So feel free to reach out to us. Sister Masum, I'm sure Sister Fatima can send our information onto these families. And while you're in there, I'm still learning from Zoom. You're probably going to learn a lot, and don't recreate the wheel. Whatever we can do to help you, we'd love to. So just keep us in your du'as, inshallah. And that's it from us. Fi aman Allah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.
Jazakallah.
Thank you.